Carrie is going to be a little bit late.
Okay.
I believe Joan is not going to be at the meeting,
Right. Joan
and
and
Sal.
Sal. Right. And did Carrie say how late is late?
Um, she said she was going to be there at 6:57, but it's 7:01. So
Oh.
I would say probably 5 to 10 minutes, not more than five
Hmm.
to 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, maybe what we should do is, in terms of a quorum, is to elevate Sophie, because Carrie might be 5 minutes, might be 10 minutes, might be 15, and I'm not sure we want to, delay the meeting that long, and might just proceed with that. What do you think about that, Kevin?
I had this question I should have asked you all last time because I was late. What you did to start the meeting. I'm just trying to look it up now. So maybe you already looked it up and have the answer a day. I thought you had to have a quorum to start a meeting. You could then elevate an associate at that point to vote on matters. For example, one of the main reasons we did that was for us to vote tonight. If we're going to have 3 voting members, everything we vote on would need to be unanimous with the 3 of us because it needs to be a majority vote. So in other words, oh, here comes Carrie down. Perfect. So in other words, you elevate somebody so in case there's going to be a vote like 2-1 vote, then you elevate 2 people so you have 5 voting members, and then so it's easier to hit the 3 mark for whatever it is that you're going on. I think that's the case. I'm not positive, but no, it doesn't matter. I'll look it up the next time and be sure.
Yeah, and I will too.
But I thought you had to have a quorum to start of voting members.
Is that in Robert's Rules of Order? Hi, Carrie.
No, you can find that in our bylaws.
It's in our bylaws?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It should be, anyways.
Yeah.
The easiest thing to do is to send council an email.
Yes, right. Good. Seems like we're racking up that council bill. I don't know if they charge us by the hours or
They'll
what.
charge you by the email. Yeah, no, yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
Quick one though.
I can't do business unless I have a quorum. So when I do my municipal meetings in my town, I can't open a meeting unless I have a quorum.
I'm pretty positive that's the way it's set up, that we only elevated them, like I said, just so it doesn't have to be a unanimous vote. If you only have like the 3 of us here tonight, if only the 3 of us were voting on something and it was a 2-1 vote, it doesn't pass.
Yeah.
It needs the full quorum to pass.
Oh really? I didn't realize that. I thought quorum was just to be able to hold the vote, not necessarily that you had to have a quorum. I'm
definitely positive on this one. You need to have the quorum of voting in the favor or negative for it to.
It has to pass by a majority of the voting members, not by those present.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
Well, not just a majority though.
Well,
whatever the quorum or higher, whatever your quorum or higher would be.
Yeah.
But tonight it's good to elevate Sophie. Not that I think we have a lot of. We're going to have 2-1 votes, but you never know. 2-1 wouldn't cut tonight because there's only 3. You need 3 yes or no's.
Right, which is also the majority.
That's the majority
of the voting members. Yes. So, but yes, got it. Okay. So why are we debating about this?
Because we were wondering what to do until you showed up, but now you're here.
Right.
Was that?
Okay,
oh,
so
I'm sorry. I sent a day a message. I was stuck in traffic and it just took me a minute.
We were just trying to figure out what we could or couldn't do. That's all.
Oh, it was like hot stove and not baseball season. I got it. Okay.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And let's do a roll call. Jerry,
Present.
Carrie,
Present.
Sophie,
Present.
Kevin,
Present.
and Rick present. So in terms of tonight's agenda, we actually have a relatively, I think, relatively short agenda, and particularly since our last meeting was 2 weeks ago. And again, Sal and Joan won't be with us tonight. And so we're going to approve the minutes from a couple weeks ago, public comment if there is any. We reviewed feeding of the wildlife regulation last time, but we didn't have it on the agenda for a vote. We're going to see if there's any additional edits or suggestions, and then hopefully take a vote on it. And then for the dumpster regulation, item number 6, we talked about this a couple meetings ago. We thought we had pending town council approval. We thought we had a good document. Town council went through it and had numerous suggestions, which everybody received, reviewed both that and the clean copy. And so we're going to, again, see if there's any additional feedback. And then our usual monthly reporting and final comments. So that's the meeting for tonight. Any other changes or anything else we should comment on? Not seeing any. In terms of the minutes for May 29th, were there any edits or suggestions?
None for me.
So I had a couple minor things. On the last paragraph under volunteer application, Jerry's name is spelt wrong. In one sentence it's spelled correctly, and then in another sentence it's spelled Jerry. And so we should change that a day. And the other thing is that the roll call to adjourn the meeting is not in the minutes. And so we need to put that in the minutes. And I forgot who seconded it, because I usually make the motion. So you would have to look at the video for that. Those are the only 2 minor edits.
All right, we'll have those rectified.
Okay.
Good catch.
So go ahead.
No, I
So
second
with those, I'm sorry, Kevin, I missed it.
I just keep saying good catch. Rick.
Okay, yeah. So with those changes, I make a motion with those changes included to approve the minutes for May 29th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Kevin. Vote Carrie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and Rick, yes. Okay. I don't see anyone here for public comment. So not seeing anyone, I'm going to move on from that. And go to agenda item number 5, feeding of wildlife regulation. So we've had, we received the sort of the clean copy. And a day, I don't know if you want to make any comments or what your thoughts are in terms of this.
I was just gonna go over, what transpired between the last meeting and this meeting.
Okay.
So pretty much the regulation was presented at the last meeting. and the board members had some feedback that I had to, take back to the town council. So we met and we had to clarify some of the questions from the board. And those were included in the packet that I sent out to the board members. I would like to quickly go over them, prior to the board voting on the regulation tonight. And let's see. So once the board votes to adopt the regulation tonight, all we have to do is publish a summary in the local newspaper and then send a final copy to the town clerk for publishing on the town's website. Let's see. So at the last meeting, Dr. Lopez wanted to know if the wildlife definition should include rodents, deer, and rabbits. And according to town council, the list is not inclusive. Therefore, if the deer, rabbit, or rodent is undomesticated and unrestrained, it would fall within the definition of wildlife. So to make things easier, we decided to redefine, the meaning of wildlife and just make it clear. And we came up with this definition. Wildlife means any undomesticated and unrestrained animal, rodent, or fowl, including but not limited to coyotes, foxes, raccoons, skunks, turkeys, bears, deer, and rabbits. So if the board is fine with this definition, we can definitely make the change. And also, Dr. Lopez wanted to know if we should align the 48-hour requirement to remove the attractants under the exceptions section with the 7-day requirement stated in the prohibited activity section. And according to town council, this is a policy decision. If the board wants a shorter timeline to line up with the other sections, that's completely reasonable. So the board can, we can make the change as well. I don't know if Dr. Lopez, sorry about that, but would you be able to put up the regulation if you have it?
I mean, I can get it, but I don't have it immediately in front of me.
Okay.
Can you put it up?
Yes, anybody can pull it up.
Okay. I just won't do that.
All right, thank you. Would you be able to scroll to 26.4? Yes, that's it. So if you look at items A, E, and F, it has a 48-hour requirement to remove any attractants. And then if you scroll down to 26.3C, scroll up, yeah, 26.3, yes, it says 7 days. So Dr. Lopez raised the point of aligning everything to be like 48 hours instead of seven days.
Yeah.
And it seems reasonable. So if the board wants to do that, we can definitely change that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I like consistency.
Agree.
So why don't we do that?
And there was a little typo that got rectified, so that's not a big deal.
So,
Great.
sorry if I may.
Go ahead.
I'm just reading that last thing. It says it may be, so in C, it's within 7 days. A failure to remove within 7 days may be evidence that the feeding was done intentionally. So is this tying it to something different rather than just the, it seems like it's focusing more on intentional versus unintentional. And is that why there was a distinction?
Yes, that was the reason that we, put 7 days instead of 48 hours to show, continuous feeding, and that will be deemed as, intentional feeding. And then we can then cite the violator.
So if they, so they feed, we give them a notice, we ask them to clean it up within 48 hours, and they may or may not. And if it's not cleaned up within 7 days, then that can be construed as intent, which is different. But does the intent change what we would fine, or what does the inclusion of intent change what we would be, what the department's action would be?
Honestly, I believe the shorter it is, the better for us, because we don't want it to continue.
Right,
But
yeah, no, understood, just trying to understand why, what if intent means, so if you feed them, then you're in trouble. If you feed them and you leave it out and you feed them intentionally, are you in more trouble? Or is it just don't feed?
well, so that gives us the opportunity to, I mean, if anybody wants to go to like civil court, they can get a document from us, stating that, we've been here before. This
Right.
person is a violator. We asked the person to stop. The person continued. So this is an intentional violation of the feeding of wildlife regulation.
Right, so it's included as a way of possible protection for if there was a need to go to court. That's
Absolutely.
why it's included. It's different than the, it's kind of a next level thing, as opposed to just the regular, just the first time violation. So if we make it 48 hours, so we're saying that if they don't clean it within, so we're saying we're going to change it from 7 days to 48 hours, and we're accepting that if they don't clean it within 48 hours, that means that they were doing it intentionally.
Well, if we change it to 48 hours, it's still going to be the same. We're just changing the duration of the violation. If we change it to 48 hours, we can still consider that as intentional feeding.
Right. I mean, that's what the change would be, but that's what we're saying. We're saying we want you cleaned it up within 48 hours, and if you don't, we're going to consider it intentional.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's how everybody understands it, and that that's what we want to. I wanted to make sure I understood it, and then, yeah, okay. Can I ask a second question?
Absolutely.
Aday, I had said, I think I missed something. I'm trying to understand what problem we were trying to solve with this. Was this just like a routine update of a regulation that we had on our books and we wanted to clean, or was this brought up to us as a part of a specific problem? And
Yes.
I'm sorry if
It was
this
brought
is.
up. It was brought up to us as a complaint, and it's been ongoing for a while, and we don't have any form of enforcement. And then we decided to come up with this regulation because a lot of municipalities have it and we don't.
Yep. Yep.
So that was what brought about the regulation.
Okay. And town council's changes now make it consistent with other communities that we're with, like maybe with our shared services community partners and.
Pretty much. I mean, there are some things that are unique to, the town of Reading, but
Right.
Mostly, yes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or suggested edits on this document?
So does the board want to keep the 7 days, or does the board want to change it to 48 hours?
I like the 48 hours
it-
from a consistency standpoint.
Yeah, I also think that, if an inspector goes and says, we got a complaint, if, this is feeding wildlife, you really need to clean it up in 48 hours, or we're going to have to cite you with violation. 48 hours is a very reasonable time. I don't know why we would have to wait a whole week to have the resident clean it up. I mean, it's a very reasonable time frame for what they're doing, and so on that basis, I would err on the side of 48 hours. Carrie?
If I can just to play this out. So I agree, 48 hours is a very reasonable time, except if you're away on vacation, or if you are at your second home, or if you're traveling on business. And I guess that's because so then it wouldn't necessarily be intentional if you were away and you got notice. That's my,
That raises an
Um,
interesting question, Carrie. When we say notice, is that physical notice? Like at the house putting them on notice, or is it just when we sent out a piece of mail?
Well, we knock on doors as well. So if something is happening, we can always post a notice on the door if needed. So it just depends on what strategy we want to use. So, for example, if we have a complaint at 16 Lowell Street, and we can verify the violation, we can issue a ticket right there and put it right in the mailbox or post it on the door. We can do that.
right.
Or we can come back to the office, send a letter, include a ticket with the letter. It just depends on how egregious it is.
Right, but then so then then you play it out, and if you go back in 48 hours and it's not cleaned up, do we know if they received notice?
We don't.
Right. So is it intent, if we don't know,
But if there's evidence that they're feeding wildlife, presumably this is an ongoing issue, and if we get into the detail of, well, what if they were away for a week or 2 weeks, or what if they were in Florida? Well, then if they were away, they wouldn't have put out the food for the wildlife. I think it's probably within the discretion of the health department in terms of understanding the situation and making adjustments. And we've certainly done that, in other circumstances where there's been language barriers, and there's been, so you try to work with the resident. I think the 48 hours is sort of kind of just sets a standard. I'm not sure we could go through every single possibility of what would happen if we would never be able to write something. What if they were gone for 14 days and it was 7 days? Then it would still be a problem. Go ahead, Carrie.
So I agree that 48 hours is a reasonable notice. I'm looking more at we're just saying it's intentional if it's not cleaned up after 7 days. And again, now just for the sake of argument, what if somebody puts feed in their bird feeder and then they go away for 3 days? Do we? I just have a little problem, and because this regulation is kind of enforced at the department's pleasure, that makes me a little concerned too, right? I mean, we're not going to go around and check everybody's yards for bird feeders. We're using it for if somebody has a bird feeder and they're kind of egregiously overfeeding and creating nuisances. So I just like things to be kind of tight. I do not like to play out for every what if. That's definitely not what I'm after.
So Ade, can I ask you a question in regards to that might solve it? Any time that you would find somebody, that person has a recourse to come before the board to discuss that with the board for whatever reason, right? That's kind
Absolutely.
of a standard thing that we have. We don't have to write that into every action that we have, such as this one, right?
Yes, pretty much. The person has the, can come
Well,
to the board and contest the ticket if needed.
I mean, I would say that could clear that thing up pretty easily. They just have to come before the board and say, well, listen, I was away from these dates. I've cleaned it up. They can, obviously, if we're having a meeting a day, we'll verify that that's been true or not, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay.
What do you think about that, Carrie?
Yeah, that's
It's a little bit
That's
more of a pain for the person, but if we're out there, person's also being a little bit of pain to their neighbors at this point. So
right.
it is what it is.
Sophie has a question.
Go ahead, Sophie.
Need,
Up your, oh, there.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna, do we even need 26.3C? Because the part here was done intentionally. When you go down to the fees, it's not like the fees or the offense change whether or not it's intentional. So wouldn't it just be much more streamlined if we just got rid of this and it's 48 hours and we're hoping that, people would do it. And if it's not completed within the time, just like Kevin was saying, they could come to the board. Just seems like this language is more confusing than it's worth, and it doesn't point to any sort of severity and increase in punishment or something.
Most likely you're asking an attorney question. Because typically attorneys put things in for very specific reasons, and I always hate taking things out completely because of that, because it's the old fence in the middle of a meadow, and you just want to rip it down because it's sitting. What's the fence doing in the middle of a meadow? Then you kind of have to find out.
Yeah,
and
put there for a purpose.
And I think, Kevin, that's kind of where I'm coming from. What would council say if we change 7 to 48? Did they already look at that and they know? And I should have just.
I thought they already had.
They did. According to town council, it's a policy decision by the Board of Health.
Okay. Cool.
A day could, just in terms of Sophie's suggestion, let me just ask. I don't think we have this kind of wording. I mean, Sophie makes a good point. We don't have this kind of wording in other regulations. We don't give people time to determine whether, they're intentional or not around a violation. For instance, on the dumpsters, right? So, when Amelia has gone to deal with the dumpster issue, she negotiates with them that this is a violation. You need to come back. I'm going to come back, and if it's not totally right, we might have to do a second inspection. But then you make a sort of decision that it's a violation. So we don't. It is true that we don't usually, in any of our regulations. I mean, even for the chickens issue, we go there. Yes, you have chickens. You need to get rid of them. We don't say within 48 hours. We say we're going to come back. Whenever, and you need to remove them. There's a little bit of give and take and play before you decide, to issue a cease and desist or violation. So given that, so that's, I think it's a good point. Like, why do we have to do it in this regulation?
So, can we just change it to like 48 hours and then remove the language about intentional feeding?
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't change it. I hear what everyone's saying. But the 48 hours in the other section is in regards to a mishap, right? So I guess that's almost an argument to keep the 7 days, where this is intentional. So there's no other part of this regulation that says if you are intentionally doing this, we have a right to fine you. It doesn't say it anywhere else. It says it shall be the responsibility of the landowner or person feeding the wildlife to comply with all sections of this regulation. One of those sections is, if you're intentionally doing it, we can fine you. Again, I wouldn't, if you don't feel comfortable doing this tonight, I know a gentleman on Swan Ave will not be happy about it, but still, I'm never in a rush to get things wrong. And if you want to, if you need to get back and ask council these exact questions, then, maybe we could do a quick one, because we don't have a July meeting. I'd hate to go the whole summer, but maybe we could do a quick one. And when I say quick a day, I mean not adding in anything else. 15-minute meeting at some point that everybody can make. Because if you have those serious questions, and I do get that what you're saying, I just wouldn't change it. I'd go back and not start over again, but go back out, get the question, and come back to the table with it answered. But I definitely wouldn't change this document here tonight, other than what we've been told we can, which is the time frame.
Right. I agree with that.
So sounds like, since we don't have consensus on this particular paragraph, and we would want a day to bring back to town council, their opinion. And I know they said it was a policy opinion, but I think the question is, do we need this paragraph at all? What would happen if the person was away for a week and they never received the violation? I think you could listen to this conversation, or have town council listen to it and see what she comes up with. Yes, Kevin, you mentioned.
Well, I was going to say, I wouldn't. I mean, we can clear that up with them coming before the board. It's a little bit of a an extra step for the homeowner to do, or occupant to do, but still, I wouldn't get into too much in regards to that, because that just a can of worms. You're going to keep going round and round. They can come before us. It can be a case by case thing in front of the board, and we can figure it out on the spot, with what happened, and either grant them leniency or enforce the.
So let me ask Kevin, what should a day, and Carrie, what should a day ask town council around this particular provision?
I just ask them the necessity of it. I think it's necessary because it's no other where in the document that we can actually say that there was intention to feed, and to me that makes it necessary. But I would ask, is that the case? Is that why it's in here? Why do you want this in here? Do we need it?
Right.
Okay. And I don't. I mean, in terms of scheduling another meeting based on whatever town council answers, I mean, I don't think. I'm happy to do that, although it doesn't seem like this is an emergency type situation.
I know one resident in town that would very much disagree with you, Rick.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Needed relief a year ago. Put it that way.
Oh, really?
Time is of the essence with this one.
Okay.
So, is it possible to?
Nope. I know what you're asking.
All right.
Do it.
As amended by town council. No, I don't think we should do that either. I mean, let's just have a 15-minute meeting.
Because I don't want us to stand. I don't want to be, standing in the way of somebody getting relief from a, what sounds, based on your boards, Kevin, a significant issue. But I do think it's, it's important to be clear on what we're
So
Do we
here's
have to have that? What do we do with it? What are we, what are we doing? That's
the
or
way
my thought.
the way I've interpreted it is that we need to show that there's intent. And to me, that's lawyer speak for, I need evidence, like Ade said earlier. So if it
Right.
comes to court, I can prove that we, had that in the regulation. We could simply vote it in with the 48 or the 7 days right now,
Yep.
send it to town council and ask them, bring it
Yeah.
back at a future meeting and amend our own policy. That's something we can simply do tonight.
But that,
There's a clause at the bottom of it that reads, let me open it. No, where'd mine go? Hold on. Each provision of these regulations shall be construed as separate to the end that if any part shall be held invalid for any reason, the remainder shall continue in full force and effect. That is a disclaimer. If we screwed up, we're going to fix it, but you're still on
Right.
the. So I think we're covered
that
there.
severability, yep.
So what are you proposing, Kevin, that we
We decide if
approve
we
it?
want to do the 7 or 48 tonight, and then vote it. I'm assuming it'd be an upvote. Vote it in, and then just we can back source what's going on with that and get an opinion from town council on it.
Okay. But according to Ade, it needs to be posted in the newspaper. So we would be whatever we decided on. And I mean, it's not,
Which has come from our own attorney. So I think we can post it in good conscience as it is. And then get the back answer. And if it comes back like, well, that's kind of up to you. If you wanted to remove it, it doesn't really make any difference. I think it does, because again, I don't see anywhere else where it can show intent.
Right.
And
Right.
intent in lawyer speak is a very strong word. They
Yep.
just, that's like, you knew better. We told you so.
Yep.
You still did it. And so that is their hold up in court kind of language.
Right. And that's why I was kind of checking the 48-hour piece, because it's, I don't know if that meets the standard, but so we could
Why don't we just
approve
vote
it
it as it is with 7 days?
as is. Yeah.
And then if it becomes a problem in the future, again, we can always amend our own policies down. Like if people are abusing it, wait until, the morning of the 7th day to remove it, every time.
Would it be 7 consecutive days?
Oh God, you had to ask that question.
I think that's
7 days that the town hall is open? Oh,
Or do you want to change it to 5? You can change it to 5 instead of 7.
and then at least, yeah, then it will never run over a week.
Or
But
even
if it's
4.
done on a, right, well, so, and if you post a notice on a Friday, then it's Wednesday, or
So if you
there'd be no
post it
post.
but if you post it on a Tuesday, it's next Monday.
This is true.
That's that. I think that's fine. 5 actually would be fine because you still get just about your 7. You're never going to have. You can have one option to have more than 7. You just can't go out on Tuesdays a day. No sending mail on Tuesdays, or Mondays.
Or do you want to do 4? Because we're here from Monday through Thursday.
So then you get Tuesday through Fridays, you're 4. If you notice on Monday, yeah, that's fine. Then what if someone's not home? Sorry, we already did that one.
I mean, 4 days
Well, if you
gives
get
a little
notice
bit
on
more leeway.
Thursday, you're not going to be able to recheck it until Monday, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's 4 days. But if you gave notice on Wednesday, you wouldn't be able to check it anyway, until the following Monday. And so that would argue to keeping it at 7 days as is. Unless Amelia.
So
has
what if they
something to add.
violated for 3 days, they remove the attractant for 1 day, on the 5th day they bring it back out? Would that be the beginning of another 7 days, or?
Yeah. But I mean, the way this reads, because it's a failure to clean it up within 7 days.
So I think 7 days is long. I think we should shorten it to something else.
So we're also, can we just add in calendar? 7 calendar days?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see what that changes it doesn't change the intent from our attorney.
Yeah. Right, because then you put something and that means that you can go on it runs over the weekend, but the clock hasn't stopped for the weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick scenario. We go there on Monday.
Mhm.
The violation exists on Monday. We're out of here on Thursday. We go back on Monday. And then they tell us on Thursday when we were out, they took care of the problem, but we could not verify it. So how do we handle that?
Hold on, say that again, Ade.
So let's say we find the violation on a Monday.
Yeah.
We're only open from Monday through Thursday.
Yep.
Right? So that's 4 days.
Mhm.
And then on the 5th day, they clean it up, but the health department was not able to verify that they cleaned it up.
It's going to have to still be open. It's still going to have to be cleared up on Monday when you get in.
Correct. But if they say that they, clean it up, are we starting all over? Are we starting over from just,
Yes.
the
The
6th
way I
day,
read it,
or-
I mean, and I think Kevin's line, this is a lawyer question, but the way I read it is, yes, we're setting a clock and saying you have to clean it up. And then if it's cleaned up, if you've verified that it's cleaned up, or they provide you evidence that it's cleaned up, whatever, then the next time would be, yeah, you'd get another thing. So, right, the regulation is silent on repeat offenses.
So
what I'm saying is more of taking a break in the middle, cleaning it up in the middle.
Yeah.
Does that constitute starting over
Yes.
with the 7 days? So let's say on the 3rd day.
No, you have to give them 7 days. They can clean it up whenever day they want in that time frame, but we must give them 7 days. That's
They
what
do it through day 6 if they wanted to.
Right, they could wait
Right.
till day 6,
Okay.
and they could feed again on day 8,
Right.
and that's day 1.
Right.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
So it's the second offense is what you're really talking
It's
about.
it happens on day 8. The second
Yeah.
offense happens on day 8. Yes.
And that would start the clock all over again a day.
They
So if
clean it
they,
They could clean it on
Yep.
day 2. They could redo it on day 3. They could clean it on day 4. They could redo it on day 5, and off they go.
right,
Once it hits day 8, now you're getting double fine. That's the second offense. The way I read it, a second offense is just a second offense, not a concurrent.
Mhm.
They could go 3 weeks, and you know what? Did it again. Okay, this is now your second offense.
right,
That's the way it reads.
yep.
So in that scenario, shouldn't we shorten it to 48 hours? Because of the ability to do it of the situation we just described?
But is that the cure, or is it that we need to be kind of escalating for repeats? Or both? Regulations are so fun.
Mhm.
That would suggest that we would need another paragraph that would state that if it reoccurs within 30 days, it's still considered the same offense, and or within the next 12 months, it's considered the same
Yep.
offense.
Yes.
Well,
Mhm.
so the way it reads is, each day that the offense continues shall constitute a separate offense. So it's not the same offense, because we have a first and a second, and then we
Yep.
have an additional fine as well for after the second offense.
But and this is kind of like a day, this is reminding me of conversations that we had when we were talking about cleaning up a couple of yards and, you know, the yard condition. And it was sort of the, how do we make sure that there's a cure to the problem and also not create a cycle where the Board of Health has to be going out every day or, you know, whatever interval, right? That we're regulating and we're including in there something that it says, you know, the goal here is to stop the behavior. Is that, I don't know if anybody remembers that example and whether that resonates with them as well. Or it's like tobacco, right? It's the, you know, multiple offenses, I mean, it's not like tobacco, but in our tobacco regs, it's first offense is this, second offense, you know, you pay more, you get shut down. We don't have quite the same levers for individual activity, but
Right.
because I mean, that's the goal, right? The goal is to stop the behavior, to get people to clean up, to clean up the place and have it not be creating a nuisance.
Yep. Right.
It's not just to, you know, give a ticket every now and, you know, because something didn't work.
Correct.
Or is that it? Do we include this and then say at some point it does trigger over into our nuisance? Right? And we handle it that way?
If I can just add about the nuisance reg, Carrie, Massachusetts State General Law, Chapter 111, I think Section 22 is like the state public nuisance, and that trumps any regulation that we write. So if it does turn into an instance where it's becoming a continuous nuisance and we're finding that maybe our wildlife regulation isn't helping the situation, we can always use the state public nuisance to override ours and be in a way more strict with it if we're finding that we're having issues with the wildlife regulation. If that's where you were going with that. I feel like you were going into that, so
Yeah.
I was like trying to.
Thank you. That's helpful. Because continued failure to comply or repeated failure, you know, or repeated instances, you know, we're talking about kind of how do you stop it, and maybe that is it. But we want to say, you know, it would constitute a nuisance if it's, you know, 3 offenses within a period or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but yeah, we have.
So the town of Reading doesn't have a nuisance regulation. And the only way we can have a nuisance regulation is if it's more stringent than the state regulation. So that's where I think you're going.
Well,
wait a day.
but-
Don't we have Section 15 is the public nuisance regulation for the health department? We have that.
Let's see. Let's take a look.
I'm pretty sure it's Section 15 public nuisance or health nuisance. It's like short. It's not a very detailed regulation, but it, you know, kind of encompasses that anything that the health department feels is a nuisance, we can cite them under that regulation.
right.
Yeah, so pretty much the regulation adopts it adopts what we have for the state anyways. That's
Which
what-
would be that Chapter 111, Section 22, which is the state's public nuisance. I
Yeah,
think
so it's not, we don't have like our own town specific nuisance regulation. We can work on that and let this wildlife regulation fit into that. But
do we need to? Can't we just use the state law as we have the ability to enforce state law. We don't have to have a thing, and we don't necessarily need anything to be more stringent. I thought the public nuisance law, gives us.
Well, the
Gives
state
us-
law has nothing to do with intentional, feeding or intentional activities. So,
But it's whatever we determine as a public nuisance. So if we determine that that's a public nuisance, then we can use that as a regulation. We can use that as an enforcement.
Yeah, so a great example would be this, the person's on now their 6th offense.
Right.
Exactly.
The $150 fine just doesn't cut it anymore. Now we can determine, say, okay, they're just going to keep paying the $150.
Right. And this is clearly this is clearly becoming has become a public nuisance, and under that law,
it's kind of like we don't have like a standing water regulation, but we can cite that as a public nuisance as it's a breeding ground for mosquitoes. So
right.
it's the context of it and like how you want to use it, you can use it. That's the whole, we can use anything in chapter 111, any state law we can enforce.
Right.
This is, I think, one of those cases where the board has pretty sweeping powers.
Yes. We just have to, it's the threshold of saying, what are we saying will be,
Right.
a nuisance.
If somebody does it for the 6th time, I think we're well within our right to say, okay,
Yep.
we need to go another angle here.
Yep. And if we say 6, then changing it to 48 hours certainly is, we're giving people a little bit of space if we say 6, 48-hour failure to clean up within 48 hours is would constitute a nuisance under XYZ, then that seems fair. Generous even. I made
So
Jerry
we're back.
smile.
Yeah,
So
don't
are
want
we
to give
back
them
to
7 days,
48
back to
hours?
that whole thing. If someone's going to be a repeat offender, it's a good look at it, Kerry. You don't want to keep giving them 7 days each time.
No.
They could stretch that out. The 6th offense is going to, a month and a half later.
Right. Yeah, I would not want 7 if we're
Right.
in an instance like that. And that's really why I was raised. It was just like, so what are we doing with intent, and where does this go? I think, and that's
I think you just swayed me to the 48 hours.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I would make a motion. I mean, sometimes we just have to vote and decide, because I've heard eliminate the paragraph, 48 hours, 4 days, 7 days. So I'm gonna say 48 hours. I'm gonna make a motion to approve this with the change that section 26.3C has a 48-hour notice instead of 7. And I don't know if we want to suggest to a day to go back to town council and see their thoughts on this, and report back to us at the next meeting as to her recommendations. So that would be my motion.
I support that, and I think it's important to make sure that we follow up with town council to give staff what they need to not be in a continual chasing people's offenses. So
Okay. So why don't we,
I'll
so then
second the
let's
motion.
take a roll call vote.
I'll second the motion, first of all.
Okay, Kevin's gonna second. Roll call, Carrie
yes,
on that motion,
yes.
Kevin
Yes.
and Rick, yes. And I would like to retract my comments earlier about this being a short meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
We could still get through it.
yeah, we'll still get through it. Okay, Ade, the dumpster regulation.
Okay, so as you all know, we submitted an updated dumpster regulation to town council for review. after the January 2025 Board of Health meeting. We've been going back and forth to come up with a reasonable, regulation. We've made a few changes, and I believe that the board has the clean version. However, there are two questions that remain unsolved. Liv, could you please put that clean copy up?
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. Just let me know when you want to scroll.
Okay, I will. So if you go to 4.2, okay, yeah. So while we were going back and forth and trying to review the regulation, we realized that we do not have a refuse hauler permit application for the town of Reading. And we're supposed to do that by law. And town council came up with the idea of including that regulation in this regulation, so having a merged regulation. But I asked if we could just deal with the dumpsters because this has been going on for so long and we don't have a Board of Health meeting in July. So I asked if we could have a separate regulation for the dumpsters, and then we can work on a solid waste haulers application and license. And we decided we were going to do that, but that was just my decision, with town council. I wanted to take the, to get the board's opinion on that as well. So that was the first
So you
issue that we have.
So Ade, are you proposing in 4.2.1 to eliminate the last sentence? Is that
correct? To eliminate, the operate any refuse collection, because technically we're supposed to be permitting the trash haulers, but we're not.
okay? So you would remove it from this. So this regulation is strictly about dumpsters, and then we would need to address that in a new regulation around the haulers separately.
Correct. Or we can hold off on this and merge both regulations and come up with a brand new regulation that will be, reviewed at the August Board of Health meeting.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with that.
Okay. And then the question, the second question is, let's see if you keep scrolling. Okay, so if the board wants to exempt construction and demolition dumpsters from the lids being closed when not in use.
That's a good call. Yeah.
Very good catch.
Yeah.
So like, based on my opinion, just my opinion, since the dumpsters are not meant to contain food items that can become attractants for rodents, I don't believe there is need to subject them to the lid requirement unless we get a complaint that somehow, food items are ending up in a particular dumpster. So that's where I stand on that. But this is open to the board for discussion.
It sounds like we're agreed that we should make that exception.
Oh, great.
I had two other quickies. 4.2.5. There's a typo. Shall be transferable, not expect, but accept. Right?
Spell check fails you because it's a real word.
Right. And then on 4.3.3, and this is really for discussion. I mean, there may be pros and cons both ways, but it doesn't, it says dumpsters must be situated, must be located at a distance from the lot line, not to interfere with the safety, convenience, or health of any business or neighbor. And I was wondering whether it'd be prudent to have a minimum number of feet from the lot line. You know, if I'm on a butter and a neighbor and they put up a dumpster and it's right on the border, it may, particularly if it's not a temporary construction dumpster, but a dumpster that's going to be there regularly. I don't know, this sentence is very subjective. Located at a distance from the lot line. Usually regulations, building regulations and so forth, you know, they articulate precisely has to be a minimum number of feet.
Okay,
I don't know.
so the reason for that, I believe, is because of 4.2.2. Now, all applicants must have the proposed location of the dumpster approved by the fire department. So that's the reason for that. We cannot enforce the fire department code. They have certain setbacks. So the reason is because now we added the fire department. So the fire department would determine that, you know, that aspect of things.
Okay, so they have setback
Correct. Requirements.
Okay.
Traffic and things like that.
Yeah. I thanks, Ajay. That's helpful because I wouldn't want to I agree, Rick, that it seems weird to not have a number in there, but you know, I'm looking at my neighbors here and you know, driveways are right up against lot line. And if that's the only place, I can see where it would get tricky. So I like that the fire department gets the approval on the placement and they're considering the impacts. Because yeah, that sentence does feel odd, but
Okay with that. Any other comments on the clean copy, this clean copy document? So far what we have is we're going to delete the last sentence in 4.2.1. We're going to change the typo in 4.2.5. And we are going to, in terms of exception, we're going to do that exception for construction and demolition dumpsters in 4.3.5. So those are the three changes. So with those changes, are there any other
So just the wording on the
comments?
construction, you got to be careful with that. You know, homeowners will take out a dumpster just to get rid of stuff that's necessarily construction. It could be just anything. So I maybe get into, you know, on food, for dumpsters that are not used for food, or some kind of line that references the food part of it. So then all the other ones are exempt. Some kind of wording. I'm sure we could do it, but let somebody else wordsmith that.
Construction and demolition dumpsters.
Because technically, you say that, then I need a lid because I'm throwing away furniture. But you know, I've been carrying
right, or
stuff like
right,
that,
or
you
wood and wallboard and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So just to reference it to, you know, the lids to be specific for food dumpsters.
Okay, and you know, this is just for discussion. The board is not obligated to vote tonight.
Right. So we can maybe make those changes and review it at our next meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else on this agenda item?
Nope, not for me.
Okay. Okay, Dave, do you want to
Yes.
Move on to updates, reports.
Yes, I'm just going to give 2 quick updates, and then I'll hand it over to Amelia for the monthly report and leave for the nursing update. In terms of the MBTA sound study, I don't have any update at this point. And in terms of the rodent control contract, the purchasing department is still working to execute the contract. No additional information at this time. All right, Amelia.
Hello, give me 2 seconds. Okay, you guys can see my screen, right?
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Good?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I can't see you guys. So I did 20 routine inspections for the month of May, keeping everything on track for risk-based inspections. I'm doing really good with that, so that's really exciting. 2 temporary food events that I did their inspections for. I believe they were food trucks that came by to town hall, which is always fun. Everyone thinks that ice cream is being sold, and unfortunately we have to tell them that we're just doing an inspection. We had 1 complaint at Market Basket regarding a weird fish smell in the fish department and worms in their fish. So I went by Market Basket, spoke to the manager, we went into the fish department. Smelled like fish, but it wasn't like overly powering. It wasn't super strong. Their walk-in cooler where they keep all of their fish products was in great temp, along with their display. Everything was in good temp there. The fish didn't look to have, any adulteration to it at all. So, that was also a good sign. We had 3 temporary event permits that were issued as well for the month of May. Sorry, I'm trying to think in my head again. We must have had an event. I'm sorry, guys. I probably should have written that down. We had 8 complaints. So we had an above ground pool in disarray, which seems to be a common trend as well. I've gotten another one this month. I think people just have their pools open during the off season. Obviously, algae grows and whatnot. You're not treating your pool, or their pool covers will sink in. So just a little PSA to keep up with your pools. It is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. So just be aware of that. We had a portable toilet that was left in front of a home that was doing construction. That got resolved. We had some more dog poop complaints in front of the Canine Performance, and I actually spoke with the owner this time. And she also was able to resolve that. She spoke with her staff in more detail. We had trash complaints in front of homes. I did a no hot water inspection, which when I went out there, the hot water was present, which was good that the hot water ended up working. We had dog poop in public ways. So I guess a lot of people complain around the Killam area, that trail. There's a lot of dog poop that people aren't picking up. So a small little PSA as well. Please remember to pick up your dog poop. It is an attractant for wildlife, and we don't want that. And dog poop in a private backyard as well, which has been rectified with that homeowner, who does a lot actually to maintain that. I learned a lot of things speaking with her. I did all the pool inspections for all the complexes in town. So those are all ready to go and operating. I'm going to do an inspection on all of them every month for the time that they're open, which is about until after Labor Day, September. They tend to close. And that includes the country club. And we have 5 outdoor pools, I want to say. Yes, 5 outdoor pools. And for the month of May, I did a couple trainings. So I'm now training for the state housing inspection for I did complete tier 2. So that was 1 in-person training. And then I did the virtual trainings. Yes, I learned so much. Actually, Carrie was truly was a round of applause. I learned so much. I'm so happy I did that. And now I'm just waiting for Elsa to reach out to me to do tier 3, which will be actually going in person and going through a whole housing inspection from start to finish. So I'm really excited about that. I attended a Title V training, which was a lot of information, and but I loved it. It was great. I learned a lot about how to do the calculations for septic systems, which is not really talked about a lot. I know we don't have a lot of septic in Reading, so that was cool. And then me and Liv also attended a mental health first aid training, which was amazing. We learned so much. I absolutely enjoyed that. And it really sets the groundwork for when we do hoarding cases specifically. I feel like it gives us a better ability to like initiate dialogue in ways that truly I wouldn't have even thought of initiating dialogue before. So yeah, that's my monthly update for the month of May.
Thank you. Liv?
Okay.
Right. Let me just share my screen. Sorry, the birds outside my window are going insane, so I apologize in advance for that.
Can't hear them.
Perfect. All
No
right.
apology needed.
All right. Welcome to June, everyone. All right. So we're going to start off with the Reading disease report. As you can see, we have no flu cases for the month of, oh, that says March. That's supposed to say May. I apologize. For last month, we have we're down on our COVID cases and we're going up on our Lyme cases. So everyone check for ticks. Ticks are on the rise. Be safe. They can crawl on your pets. So be aware of that. Anti-tick treatments for animals are great and prevent ticks from latching on the skin, but they can still wander in the fur and crawl onto your couch and then onto you. So be aware of that. All right. In June, we have some blood pressure screenings coming up. We've got well, the June 11th one has passed, but I have one coming up next week on June 18th. And then in July, we have it on, June 18th is at Frank Tanner at 10 a.m. And then we have one on July 3rd at Pleasant Street at 11, and then July 17th at Frank Tanner at 10. For June, we have a couple Awareness Month topics. Our first one is PTSD Awareness Month. An estimated 70% of people globally will experience a potential traumatic event during their lifetime. Rates of PTSD disorders are 3 times as more prevalent in individuals who have experienced war. So if you or a loved one is showing signs of PTSD, consider taking a self-screen and reach out to a mental health counselor. Reading is actually contracted with a group called Interface, and where we can match our residents to mental health counselors. So if you are in need of that or know someone who is, reach out to me and I'm happy to get you situated with Interface. It is also Alzheimer's Awareness Month, which highlights the impact on the progressive brain disease affecting over 6 million Americans. Early detection can improve quality of life, yet many cases go undiagnosed. Raising awareness helps reduce stigma, supports caregivers, and promotes research towards prevention, better treatment, and ultimately a cure. It is also Pride Month. During Pride Month, it is vital to highlight LGBTQ plus public health needs. The community individuals are twice as likely to experience mental health challenges and have higher rates of HIV. Promoting inclusive care, reducing stigma, and expanding access to culturally competent services can greatly improve health outcomes and support well-being in this community. And finally, it is also Men's Health Awareness Month. Men's Health Awareness Month emphasizes the importance of early detection and healthy lifestyle choices. Men are 50% less likely than women to visit a doctor regularly, and heart disease is the leading cause of death among men. Raising awareness encourages prevention, routine checkups, and open conversations about physical and mental health. And someone liked this poster so much that I made that they shared it to the Men's Health Caucus website, which I thought was pretty cool. All right, and I shared these last week, but I just wanted to highlight them again just because it's going to affect us all summer. Ticks, they're out, they're about. I'm finding them everywhere. Be aware. Travel health advisories, different places have different diseases, so just be aware. So if you're heading somewhere, check to see what's going on. Bring a mask, just in case. And it's getting hot outside, so know your cooling centers. We have one at the Reading Public Library and one at the Pleasant Street Center. All right, and then just to highlight this again, I have this wonderful speaker coming in the month of July. She's going to talk to us about medicinal herbs for our gut and mood. I am super excited. I listened to some of her classes and she is absolutely phenomenal. Come visit, come see us. We have 2 dates and 2 different locations. Come see Leanne Schaffner. I'll be there. It's going to be a great event. I'm really excited for that. And just as always, we are still running our supplies take back program. Bring your stuff to me and I'll donate it to a good cause. We have diabetic supplies as well as medical supplies. And a lot of people utilize this, so send them my way. I love to bring that stuff, and I've gotten really grateful responses from the different individual communities that I bring the supplies to. Okay, that's it for my presentation, but I also just wanted to say the health department is having a table at the Reading Friends and Family Day. We are very excited for that. And we're very excited to see the community and look forward to meeting new residents as well as seeing some old faces. We're going to be featuring some fun activities there. Our residents are going to be able to try on some goggles that simulate the effects of alcohol as well as THC impairment. So we're going to put a little line down and make you walk, and you can kind of see what's going on. We tried them all on. I ran into a cabinet. It was, it was a time. We hope that you will stop by our table and come try these on and chat with us. We will be there rain or shine from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you, Liv.
You.
Great.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes. Any other comments or suggestions? I want to point out that this is Jerry's last meeting, and I want to thank you for your service and for 5 years. And you came on during the COVID pandemic, and so it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. And you've sort of been a steadfast member and very helpful. So appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Sorry, I'm just so busy traveling right now that it's just been hard to be a full-time associate member.
Sure.
Thank you very much, though. It was great having you on board.
No.
It's great to
And
get to know you guys.
if your job role changes or you retire, come back.
Yes, when I retire, I will come back. That's not anytime soon. I have a son going off to college, so.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for all your time with us, Jerry. You've been a great fellow member, and we will miss you. And I'll miss seeing you. I know we don't see it much, but we see you in that fun chair.
I know. It's still downstairs, I know.
Every now and again, she'd be in this great rope swing thing or something.
It is great. You guys can come over and use it if you want to.
But I value you for much more than just the chair. I just always appreciate things like that.
Well, thank you. I'm not going far, so if you ever need anything.
Great.
Thanks. Thank you, Jerry. Your service
Thank you.
is greatly appreciated.
Of course.
And I've been following the VASC meetings, and I think the one candidate who may have applied for Jerry's position has decided not to. So we may have a vacancy for a while. We'll have to see. Yes.
Thanks.
Carrie.
Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Rick, for those updates. I just wanted to, because I missed a meeting because I was because I was sick. It's coming back and seeing staff. I just am, it just makes me so happy. I mean, we are so fortunate. We've got great staff. Every one of, a day, Amelia, Liv, it's just, it's such a pleasure. And I really appreciate all of you and your knowledge and your effort to get things right and guide us and to, support the community. And like I said, just having been away for a little bit, it feels more notable, and I think it's worth pointing out. So thank you for your work. You guys work hard and you do great work. I'm proud.
Thank you, Carrie. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Haley, too, for always being there for us and cheering us on. Haley as well.
Admin,
And yes, sorry, Haley. Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, Ajay, you've put together, I know it's not easy. You've pulled together a nice department, and it's great to see.
yeah, I'm very happy with everybody. They're doing a fantastic job.
It's great.
And I would certainly second
Thank
that.
you.
All right. If there isn't anything else, I'd make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a
Second.
second? Carrie. Roll call, Carrie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and Rick. Yes. So we will see you all second Thursday in August, unless we have an urgent issue that we have to address, in which case we'd have to pull together a quick meeting.
Good.
So have a great summer.
Thank you.
Great summer, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Have a nice night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.